I've been a part of a lot of different movements, Brian. I've been a part of the FIRE movement. I've been a part of the Ramsey movement. There's lots of different percentages out there of all that we should do. What's your belief on the amount that we should be investing with regard to our income?
Well, I want to give first. Let me put a disclaimer, or I call it a grace statement. Is that I'm going to tell you the hard and fast rule that we believe in, and we actually have the research to show what 25% of your gross income can do for you. But here's the thing I'm going to tell you. If you're in your 20s and you're watching this, that's aspirational. The research we've done, and if you go to moneyguy.com/resources, we have what can 25% do for you. And the dirty little secret of the 20-somethings is that 10%, 15% kind of crush it if you start early enough in your 20s. But that's not what I want you to be aspirational towards 25%. Now, the rest of the answer is that if you haven't started by the time you're 40, you've got to do 25% or potentially even more so that it replaces your income in the future. But if you started anytime between 30 to 39, you're going to see 25% is going to pretty much help you cover a lot of your financial goals by retirement, because you still have enough of that time component to let your army of dollar bills kind of build and grow in the background. So that's, and look, if you can't start there, because I know that's a big number, a quarter of every dollar you make to go towards the future seems like a lot. So take our 60-40 challenge. Every time you get a pay raise, let 60% go towards increasing your savings and investment. Let the 40% kind of flip into the lifestyle. I think, unfortunately, most people do the exact opposite of that. They kind of let 90% go to lifestyle, and then they say, hey, I'll give a wink and a nod towards increasing the investments.
Yeah, let's say that somebody is excited about this and wanting to move up to 25%, but 25% seems like that's pretty jarring. Are there things they could do in the short term to maybe work on that gap a little bit to help them move towards 25%?
Let me say this, because it's going to make it seem so much more digestible. If you have household income less than $200,000 for a married couple, $100,000 for a single individual, I would say count your employer match, or any money the employer's putting in. That's going to cut the edge off that 25%. Especially if you think about, if you work for a typical employer that either offers you 50 cents or dollar for dollar matching. Let's just say dollar for dollar. Up to 6% of your pay, and then you're doing 6% on your 401k. That's 12%, almost half of the 25% right there. So that's why when you take the financial order of operations in combination, all the steps, you're going to quickly realize by the time you get to step 5 and 6, just naturally taking advantage of all the tax opportunities and other things with your savings, you're going to get to 25%. So that's why don't let the number scare you. Realize there's things working in your favor. Now, a lot of your audience is probably like our audience, where they've had success and now they blow past $200,000 of household income. Now, because you're further from the safety net of Social Security and other things that the government provides, more and more falls on your shoulders. So you better not fall asleep at the wheel without reaching that 25% goal, because it's not really aspirational at that point. It's an imperative, just so you don't wake up one day at 55 to 65 years of age and go, why don't I have more money working for me?
Absolutely. Now, if somebody dedicated themselves for a extended period of time and they said, hey, I've been growing my income, I'm doing the 25%. How long would it take to become a millionaire in your estimate? I know that's a broad swath, but I'm sure you guys have looked into it.
Yeah, and you've probably seen this same data too. And this is the part where I don't want people to be frustrated by this. I'm hoping that it actually frees you when you see the reality, because I think so much of social media makes you believe that every 27-year-old out there is driving around in Lamborghinis and living their best life, while you're still struggling through the messy middle of career commitments, your family life, your children, all the things you talk about on your show, Andy. I mean, that's why we call it the messy middle. Those years are long. I mean, the days are long, but the years are extremely short. It really does sound like a country music song, but that's not the reality. The reality is that building wealth is slow, patient work, where that's why I say set it and forget it. Create those automated behaviors that make that good habit as easy as possible, because the research, and this is what you were asking about, the research shows, and this comes from Ramsey Solutions, is that most millionaires, and I've seen this, by the way, it's confirmed by Millionaire Next Door when I've looked into their data as well. The typical millionaire occurs in your late 40s. Ramsey Solutions puts it directly around 48 years of age after saving and investing for 27 to 28 years. So but look, we have a whole stable of clients and listeners to our Money Guy show who are crushing through that incredible goal even in their late 30s. So I think that I always say that if you come and hit this hard and then you're disciplined, you don't have to be average and be at that 48. You more than likely could do this for 15 to 20 years. And I think that probably echoes your own journey, Andy, as you've kind of shared a lot of your journey, and you guys hit it much sooner than 48 because you were very committed to walking through and saving beyond 25%. So you blew through those goals much sooner than that.
We did. Yeah. It took us about a little less than 10 years, but I think a big part of it was the amount of income we had. We were in the higher 180s, 190s for an extended period of time, 10 years. So the more money you make, the process becomes a lot easier. Obviously, the savings as well.
Yeah. Just make sure you have the discipline. Because, I mean, we just did we just did a show on people who make incomes over 100,000, 150, even over 250,000, and you'd be shocked at how many. I mean, even on the 250, that's close to half are living paycheck to paycheck. And so when I hear about stories like that, that's not an income issue. That's a discipline issue, and unfortunately, a lot of people struggle with that, even if they have income.
It's a very good point. And I think I was driven by certain things that maybe were a little bit more false in my mind too. So I want to talk about some of those false pursuits a little bit too. When we look at what it means to be a millionaire, and you even Google images millionaire or whatever, like there's a lot of things out there that are a depiction of what it means to be a millionaire. How do you see the benefits of actually being a millionaire in your eyes?
Yeah, here's the big takeaway. Walk away from the persona that the consumption society we live in has put forth on what millionaires look like. I mean, there's a reason when Millionaire Next Door came out in the mid 90s, it was such a big, and I know it's got some age on it now, but I'm just taking you back in time. What really made a splash back then was that the car that it shared that was the most popular among millionaires was the F-150 truck. And you're like, well, wait a minute, how does that reconcile with everything I see on TV, now social media? And I'm just telling you that what you've been preached or told or sold through all the advertisers and everybody who's trying to tell you what you need to do to live your most fabulous life out there is wrong. Because the typical millionaire is, they're living a modest lifestyle. I mean, that's just that's not what's presented to us, and I respect that. I mean, you typically will see people who put this time in because they own their time, and that's really the gist of your question is, what do you get if you focus on this? I originally, I go back to my 26-year-old self. I told, and I mean, anybody who listened to me, I said, I'm going to be retired by the time I'm 50. I'm going to save so hard so I can be retired. Now, at the time, the goal was noble because I thought I would want to leave work. But what I've realized just walking that journey and now being over 50 is that all that setup, even though I have no desire to ever retire now, it's funny how when you love what you do every morning, you don't feel like you need to walk away from it. But I've realized all that investing I did when I was in my 20s and oversaved and invested has bought me this margin of flexibility to where I do things on my terms, when I want, how I want. And what I've found is I'm more productive. I mean, things that I am investing in now as a passion for content, even starting a podcast. I did this in 2006 as a hobby. I mean, what a complete nerd I am that I didn't realize this was the greatest business idea I was ever going to do. I was just doing it because I always wanted to be a school teacher. I felt sad that most people didn't qualify for a high net worth fee only fiduciary financial advisor. So I was like, I'm going to pay it forward by creating content. And I think that is a big part of people just understanding what money is, and it's not. It's a tool. It's not the goal.